About to get my Cinema Stash rehash on.
Let's go!
What?
It's showtime. And welcome to another episode of Cinema Stash Rehash.
Yo, yo.
Where we rehash the oldies and the goodies and where we love them, make fun of them, and discover how they fuel our everyday life paranoia. I am Jason McLendon, and here with me are my usual suspects, Wyatt Campbell.
What's up?
And Chris Mattson.
That's me.
And tonight with us, we have a very special guest. He's a filmmaker, an animator, and also the co-director of the International Animation Festival, Animation Chico. And he is the one, the only, Mr. Josh Funk.
Funky.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for being here. So I have to ask you this, Josh, because I've known you for a while, and back when with the whole pursuit of music, with the farewell letter and everything, and we lost touch for a while and whatnot. And when I started hearing what you've been doing, I was shocked. And I remember it's like all of a sudden Josh is making movies, and not only are they amazing, but they're just damn right awesome. And I have to ask, it's like, what was it for you that just suddenly sparked the idea that I want to make films and movies?
Thanks. Actually, it came down to I just wasn't having fun playing music live. I kind of thought it just wasn't a good fit for me, and I thought about Nightmare Before Christmas and a lot of the movies from when I was a kid and how much I loved them. And one day I was just like, I think I'm going to try making a stop motion film. I know that's just what happened. And so I researched it. I was like, well, how do you make a puppet? How do you do this? What software do you use? And I slowly worked on it over a year while I was working a retail job. And then by the end of it, I showed it. I just put it out there, and everyone loved it. And it was like the best thing, like the most fun I've ever had. So I just kept trying to one up myself, and I'm still doing that and still exploring stuff.
So you're self-educated on this?
Yeah.
You learned on your own how to build these models and do the animation on your own?
Yeah, there's a lot of YouTube videos, and wow. I bought a bunch of those books, like the making of Coraline, the making of that kind of stuff. And I just looked at every picture in the background, like, what is that thing? And then I just Googled trying to find it, and then I was able to talk to a few animators that worked at like Robot Chicken and Leica, and then ask them some questions on how you get started, and they're all really helpful.
That's impressive, dude, because I watched those videos. At least I watched Wormholes and the Spaceman, and I honestly thought like, oh, that's what he went to school to do.
and the toy box too. Oh, that's a good one as well.
Yeah, that's a new one.
If our fan out there wants to know who Josh Funk is, you can go to YouTube, and he has a channel. Just, Josh Funk YouTube. It's
we'll post a link for that.
Yeah, watch the videos. They're pretty good.
But that's like that's why we do this podcast, is because not only do we love the older films, but that's like kind of what inspired us to like films in general.
The
practical effects, the makeups, the stop motion. That gets the mind
nowadays. Wandering,
and that's what's really awesome.
Yeah, and I gotta say, Josh, these puppets you brought in person here for us, I used this word earlier. They're very Beetlejuicy.
Yes, yeah. I was obsessed with Tim Burton when I was a kid. I've read a lot of books and interviews with him, and just watched all the special features. And so yeah, when I went to make my first film, I was like, well, I'll make it kind of like Tim Burton would. So there's a lot of black and white stripes and imagery like that. And then I've gotten away from that a little bit more and trying to find my own voice. But definitely, it was a big inspiration for my first film, Wormholes.
Oh, absolutely. Totally. No, and I loved everything you've done so far. But honestly, I really want to know more about what this Animation Chico really is. So, in your own words, what is Animation Chico, and what can basically a festival goer get from it?
So, Animation Chico is a festival I started about 3 years ago with filmmaker Sean Dyer, and it started out as a way to bring international animations to our town here, Chico, California. But now it's kind of expanding, and we're getting judges that work in the industry. This year we have a judge, Travis Kohler, who He's worked on Madagascar movies and Shrek movies, and he's going to be at the festival. We now have more submissions from local filmmakers, and that's the point. We were trying to build an animation community and let people know that anyone can make an animation. It's hard, obviously, but it can be done, and we're trying to just bring awareness to that and let them meet other filmmakers that travel to Chico for the festival.
Very cool.
No, that's awesome. For me, it's like, I have to ask because, Wyatt, myself, we have a small child, a 4-year-old or whatnot. And so, is there anything that
Wait, do we have this child together?
Yes, we do. yes. It's ours. It's our love child.
Okay, just making sure.
We have separate children with separate people. But no, I guess, for the information's sake, if you're bringing, kids to it, it's considered family friendly. So, is there any, basic, do we have to wonder? Is it basically very, very family friendly?
Yeah, it's really, animators don't always go family friendly, and we're getting more and more submissions and that are a little bit darker in subject matter, or they go to different places that you wouldn't want to bring your kid to. But what we do is we have the whole festival is really family friendly, and the very last block, anything that's a little darker, we like to put in that block. But we don't put really bad stuff in our festival, but we always give a warning so that the families know ahead of time. But there are 4 blocks of films, and a block is basically about 45 minutes of films, and then we give an intermission.
Excellent.
And we give a warning ahead of time for that last one.
That's awesome. Okay, good. Perfect to know. And actually, I have to ask, are you going to be featuring anything in this festival yourself?
This year I am, because I do commission work on the side. So I did a music video for a band called Severance Package, and it was a stop motion video made out of paper cutouts of the band performing.
Oh, nice.
And I am going to play that one. I think it's in the 3rd or 4th block, but it's I don't get a win a prize because I run the festival, so I'm not in the running.
It's people get to see it, so that's enough. Right?
Yeah, that's it.
When I was younger, I dabbled in stop go animation, and my main question is where do you learn the patience? Because
you don't.
you can press stop and record on that camera for 17 hours and come up with 17 seconds of film. So I just it's remarkable watching 11 minutes of stop go or 3 minutes of stop go, depending on what you're doing, and seeing and thinking about the amount of time and effort it takes watching behind the scenes.
Yeah,
it's cool, and it's cool that you have those on YouTube. Thank you for doing that. I wish that people did that more often.
Totally,
because you can't you can take for granted what you're seeing, because there's so much work, and even I, before knowing a little bit about it, still took it for granted watching your behind the scenes. So I just wanted to say, man, crazy good patience, because that's
I don't know. I think certain people couldn't do it no matter how long they tried, because they just wouldn't last very long.
I was one of those people for sure. So.
I have a lot of patience, but even I have to. Sometimes it just kills. It physically hurts to animate after about 3 or 4 hours. Your back is killing you.
Right.
You're in weird positions trying to just barely move something. For the Spaceman, I had which is a sci-fi film I made. There was a shot of him walking, and I had to animate that 3 times. So a total of 9 hours probably for 3 or 4, probably a 4-second shot. And it was for multiple reasons. The first time it wasn't a great enough performance. Second time, I'm embarrassed to say, the camera battery ran out. And then, so then I went and I got an external charger. The third time I got it, and but sometimes you have to do that. You have to do it multiple times until it's just the way you want it.
Yeah.
So speaking of Spaceman, was that your brother?
Yeah, that was my brother. He was free, so
because I've seen you around, but I haven't seen you in a while, and I was thinking, like, man, Josh is ripped. Like that.
I know.
You're like working out with him.
No, we look enough alike, but not in that area. He is ripped. Yeah, we actually had to film some scenes twice with him because he became more muscular, and we filmed that over 2 years, so we had to reshoot certain shots.
Oh, I actually remember this. He was doing some bodybuilding at the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like in Spaceman. I think I particularly like the use of cardboard tubes. Like you saw. Could see some bathroom tubes in there, some paper towel tubes. That gun, both of the guns were pretty awesome.
Yeah. I saw an interview with Kevin Smith, and he was saying how he made Clerks. He's like, well, I wanted to make a film, and I had access to a convenience store, so I made a movie about Clerks. And for me, I worked at AT&T, and they had all this cardboard that would come in all the time, and I was like, can I keep that? Can I keep that? And like that's where I was like, well, I have access to this, so I'm going to make a film around it.
Yeah,
That's how it started.
So I have to ask, do you have nicknames for these puppets at all?
Yeah, so not really for the spaceman monsters. I have two puppets here. One of them is earlier in the film, and then when he first meets the monster. The second one is when he gets angrier and they're kind of fighting. I don't really have names for them, but the other one I did from a talk. Wormholes. Yeah, the other guy from Wormholes I took to the Boys and Girls Club one time, and I was giving a talk and showing my films, and they were like, "What's his name?" And I was like, "I don't know. Do you want to name him?" They named him Eyeless Adam.
Eyeless.
That's not bad, actually.
Okay, that works, man.
That's his name.
So anyway, that's I am actually very excited for the festival. Do you want to? So when is it? And
it is December 9th, and it's going to be most of the day. I think doors open at 10:30 a.m., but we'll start screening films at 11. There's an intermission. We're going to have a musical guest, Michael Bone, playing 3 or 4 songs in the middle.
Awesome. And
it's going to be a good time.
I'm actually very excited for it. So
yeah, I'll definitely be there. So if you come out, watch some sweet animation, you can meet the Rehashers and
and meet the festival goers and the entries guy. No, it should be a great time.
And for all you 3 listeners out there, we might have stickers.
Just enough stickers, 3 of them.
So thank you, Josh, very much for hanging out with us. He's going to continue to be here for. We're going to discuss now. Of course, we had to do Beetlejuice.
Well, yeah, I mean, Beetlejuice is kind of like. But when you said we were going to do this movie and we were going to interview Josh, I was like, very cool. I hadn't seen any of his videos yet, and I didn't watch them until recently. But it was before I saw Beetlejuice, and I was like, oh my god, I see what's going on here. I see this. Because they are very Beetlejuicy, and Beetlejuice has its fair share of stop motion in it. Did that inspire you? I mean,
oh yeah, yes. Specifically, Beetlejuice inspired me. It was kind of subconscious though. Like after Wormholes came out, everyone's like, "Oh, it's kind of like the worm creatures in Beetlejuice," and I was like, I wasn't offended. I was like, "Oh yeah, I think I ripped that off."
Whatever. Well, no intention, of course.
You learned how to do it on your own. I mean, that changes the whole perspective of me. Like I honestly thought you were educated and like went to school to do this, and it was still impressive. But to know that you just like figured it out.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
I did go to Chico State, and I have a BA in art studio. But while I was there, it was illustration basically. This is something I found. It was years later after hating my job and not liking the direction of my life, and like I was like, I'm just going to do something that I've always wanted to do. I've always admired, and then it's just one thing's led to another.
Yeah. That's how things progress, and But I mean, this is what I love about this film is it's a typical Tim Burton film. I mean, the colors,
the Danny Elfman music.
Yes, the carnival music. I always,
right off that gave me the chills. Like watching this movie in the intro, and it's just like
the music's great.
Elfman brings it in every movie that he ever is, but it's very similar to every film that he's ever done because it's the same. Yes. Well, obviously the same composer, but I mean, it's very carnival-y. I mean, to me, it's like when I watch it, and this movie definitely brings it on with the carnival level.
But it's got that that perfect blend of the Danny Elfman, but then there's the Harry Belafonte, like calypso music. That kind of like when I think about this movie, I think more about like Deo and like the other song at the end, like Shake Senora, more than I think about that intro by Danny Elfman. So it was like when I turned this on and I heard that intro, I was like, oh damn, that piano like
my girlfriend wanted to watch it with me, and she was like, man, I don't think I can watch this. And she just got scared from the music, and I was like, man, and then it actually scared me a little more than I remembered it scaring me, which is interesting for a PG movie. But
this film was weird. I mean, it's like I didn't even actually really realize that. I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you watch the intro and it comes in, I don't recall it being a model in the beginning. It felt like it was more real, and then when it pans onto the house, That's when I felt like it became model-ish.
It's a really creative cut. And
right.
I watched. I said the same thing too. I was watching it, and I was like, "Wait, when did they switch to that?" I wasn't paying attention. They must have done a fade.
And you see the spider coming over the roof or whatever.
Yeah.
It makes me want to watch Arachnophobia like right away.
I feel like it's like I mean, I don't know this exactly, but like it would make sense that Burton like had an opportunity where the background was blurry, and then when the car went out of the picture, it's like you just have the house to like blend into a next shot.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it happened. It must. Well, I'd have to go back and watch, but I think it happened when they were going over the tops of the trees. That would be a really easy way to transition into it. But it's so seamless.
Yeah,
and it's one of those rare intros to a film where a lot of times it's just like, oh, pretty graphics, and it doesn't really help the film. This one actually really sets up the film. And
I agree.
Isn't extra just random stuff.
Yeah. It's
so this movie had like only a $15 million budget.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Because really it's like, I mean, Michael Keaton's makeup, I would say a lot of that money was probably spent on the dumbass sculptures that Catherine O'Hara made and a bunch of the monster makeups, you know?
Yeah, half of it was just,
and the
just
sets.
people.
I mean, the world that Tim Burton created was just insane.
Yeah, you would need, it seems, maybe Josh can answer this, but it seems like you need a lot of hands. I mean, something like that. It seems like you need a lot of people to work all the servos and everything.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, this film had animatronics, it had stop motion, it had, I mean, the sets were incredible. It was also one of the weirdest movies that
It was such a strange movie.
If you think about the trajectory of Tim Burton's career, he would have never made Batman. Actually, he was making this, and they were considering him for Batman. And it was based on the success of this movie.
Was it?
Yeah, and they were like, okay, if this is successful, let's greenlight Batman.
Right.
And how is this movie successful? It's so weird.
No, yeah, and pre Beetlejuice, are we talking like Pee-wee's Big Adventure was like
that was the only feature he'd done before.
That
is
true.
A strange trajectory because it's like after Batman there was like Edward Scissorhands and then Batman Returns.
Yeah.
Dude rolled out a lot of movies in that.
But
period.
this film seemed to be more of his previous, like college years type, where he did the Coraline type movies and things like that.
It was what I thought it was crazy is like, so I mean, this movie had a $15 million budget and made half of its budget back in the opening weekend, and it turned out to make $73 million, which was pretty big. I mean, especially in the late '80s. Well, I honestly, it had one of the largest box office openings in the 80s at that year.
So like
alone.
I guess, I mean, what, 88, $7.5 million.
But I mean, but the film itself, I mean, if you watch a trailer for it, you're like, I'm going to go to see this movie because it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way.
Man, $8 million was a lot of money for 1 weekend.
For an opening weekend, it was crazy. But I love it. I mean, so you get the opening scene and you get the spider and they're just driving through town or whatever. But I love the barber in this movie because it was just like, it's so weird that, it's a typical Tim Burton, like, setup for characters. Like, you got this random guy that's got no customers and he's sitting out in front and he's waiting for customers and he's talking about hair.
Yeah.
He's telling stories about hair.
Was he talking about Beetlejuice's hair?
No. Just hair.
No.
He just wants customers and he loves hair. You know, that's just him in itself. But it feels very graphic novel-y when you're watching it too. I mean, or even just comic booky. Almost when you're watching the way Burton films it, you can almost see like the panels.
Yeah.
Like as if you're watching it, like the cuts.
And everything looks all, cookie cutter and just, very.
But on purpose.
Yeah, it's
like
straight
purposeful.
edge. And then I mean the Maitlands, they their la-di-da staycation is just going dandily. I think she's going to show her knees later, But if it's not the dog, it's Adam pulling the wheel all the way over to the left to avoid the dog that kills these people. I mean, come on. Dude, at that point, I was like, Volvo was not the safest car on earth. That car went over the edge very softly, and
not
they
only that, but it was like 3 feet of water. They couldn't get out of that car.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was thinking too.
Okay, in their defense, I've seen some videos on what happens if your car goes into the water, and there's like a method because the water pressure of you can't open the door that way, and more water gets in, it traps you in there.
Oh yeah,
you have to roll down the window and get out that way. Maybe they didn't know that.
Well, not only that, but these are like 1979 windows. Yeah. These weren't like these breakaway windows either. These were the strong.
It was the 80s. Yeah. And you're right. It was like 3 feet of water. And you're like, come on,
Yeah.
Well, I heard that crash is supposed to be a lot more sinister. but they couldn't.
This was supposed to be a horror film in the first script.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
like like a terrible horror film. This wasn't supposed to be your run of the mill. Like there was some parts in there that was supposed to be really nasty.
Beetlejuice was more of a demon, and Lydia was the older sister to a younger sister who was apparently the one that could actually converse with the ghosts.
Yeah,
and there was supposedly rape. I mean, it all sounded bad.
Yeah, that's terrible. That's terrible.
This was not your happy-go-lucky film.
Because even this movie was really weird, but it didn't. It had more of a scary comic relief.
Yeah. Well, Beetlejuice himself wasn't. He was more of a funny.
Yeah, but he was only in the movie
that
for
was
like
all Michael Keaton. Though.
Yeah,
yeah, that's awesome.
He ad-libbed most of his lines through this. I mean, there was.
Boy, do you know how to pick up. Let me ask you something. Is this relationship really solid? Do I have a shot at her at all? Excuse me. Sure. Am I overstepped my bounds? Just tell me. Come on.
There's no script. If you read the actual script, and I actually did the other night, and I was like, none of these.
Did you? You read the script?
Well, it's online.
Oh.
Yeah, it's online. You can look it up and just read it.
Jason would do that for sure.
And I do.
I do.
But, I mean, like, hardly any of Michael Keaton's lines. There's a few. But for the most part, he ad-libbed most of his
even down to
performance.
Beetlejuice himself, right?
Yeah, exactly. Down to Beetlejuice himself.
That's probably why, since he got to do all the improvisation, he thinks this is his favorite movie,
Basically just it's insane, and he showed up to set and in his garb and everything, and that's when people started chanting the name and he got excited about it. But, I mean, the crash itself, that's when the movie just goes weird. They get back to the house, they don't know they're dead.
Yeah, sopping wet.
And, yeah. They're not. But, I mean, this is where I kind of like feel that I can relate it a little bit to Harry Potter, and the reason why I do that is because it's listen to me for a second.
Cool.
I know it's weird.
Reference.
You're going on a Potter tangent.
I'm going on a Potter.
It took us 12 podcasts for you to Potter reference.
I know, I did.
Just rant away, bro. It's okay.
Give me a second, though. But, I mean, it's very, like, for the first one, they use the bricks, and it becomes a doorway, and they knock on 3 times, just like they kind of tapped on it, and then it opens up into this world. And the world is just crazy. I mean, that's, I guess, my main Potter reference for it.
So this is a Harry Potter prequel?
Kinda. Yeah, I kind of feel, really, it opens up the doorway. The bricks
was
were the
doorway to Jupiter?
It was to Saturn.
You can disagree. I don't care. But it's
I agree
Potter-ish to me.
I mean, yeah, we're just going to skip over that whole thing that you just said. No, Potter's cool. I agree. It's like it's Pan's Labyrinth to me, kind of, too, with the doorway stuff.
Yeah, the doorway to the world, But, I mean, it was interesting, and that's how I related it to it. I mean, it was a cool doorway segment into this world that Burton created, which was just off the wall.
Which they didn't explain. I mean, and I'm this guy on every podcast, but they didn't explain this world at all, or what the world
agree.
is.
Well,
they did a little bit.
I mean, like the Saturn with sandworms. They didn't explain that, but like I kind of liked the fact that was mysterious. But the underworld, I think they could have explained, but maybe they didn't, because I read some stuff about how the underworld, like the civic servants were all suicidal victims.
Right.
Like the girl behind the counter on the DMV or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what they say about people who commit suicide? In the afterlife, they become civil servants.
Yeah, all those people were what they died as. Like there was a surfer that was eaten by a shark, and
but all the ones that are civil servants that have to work for the dead government.
So
or
is
whatever.
Beetlejuice a civil servant?
Or they're all suicide victim or suicide.
Yeah, and they're supposed to usher in the newly dead, basically, kind of show them the ropes or something like that.
Well, when they first show Beetlejuice, he's reading the paper.
No, he's
find a new job.
Show him. He's just okay. So this leads into like a question I have. I wonder if that all along, even during filming, that Tim Burton and everybody may have like intended to spell the title Beetlejuice as it is intended with the Geis at the end, because that's the actual, it's where it origins. And then it's the only time you ever see juice, as in orange juice, is on the cover of this movie. Everywhere else in the movie, other than like the time he's like trying to get Lydia to say his name,
right?
The juice is like the Geis,
and there's a space in between it on the poster between Beetle and Juice, but that's the only place. There's a space between Beetle and Juice. Yeah, there's a weird thing, and he, Tim Burton. The studio wanted to name it something ridiculous like Ghost House or something.
Yeah, Ghost House.
And then he had a suggestion I heard that was sarcastically called like Scared Sheetless.
Yeah, and they were going to take him up on it, and then he was like...
he was all, no!
He was like, I'm going to walk.
Yeah. But that is weird. Do you think like maybe the studio that like they were like, okay, we can't put Beetlejuice on the cover because people are going to just call it Beetlejuice when it's really Beetlejuice.
It's dumbing it down for the audience.
Exactly.
Although Beetlejuice is the weirdest reason to go see a movie versus Beetlejuice. I don't know which one would be better.
I just think it's funny because it's like on this cover it's like Beetlejuice, and then every time you see it in the movie it's like Beetlejuice, and then like they even like play on it, like she's like Beetlejuice, and then they figure it out it's like Beetlejuice.
I think that's the only way you can get around it, because in the movie even they're confused. So I think you can kind of sell it for that reason alone.
Well, even Jason's kid has never seen Beetlejuice, and
he
so
probably won't for a very long time.
He's so excited about the name, and he came up to me. He's like, "Take a beetle and you smash it, and you got Beetlejuice." I'm like, "Yeah, I guess you'd see the movie for that reason alone." So better than Beetlejuice or whatever it is.
Such a kid response, and you gotta love that.
So let's talk about some of Alec Baldwin's horrible acting in this movie.
He really regrets making this movie.
He hates this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Does he? He hates this movie?
No,
but Michael Keaton loves it, which is interesting.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
he was terrible.
Thoroughly is disappointed with his performance.
Him. He was pretty bad.
There's a autobiography I have with it's kind of like a series of interviews with Tim Burton throughout the years about each film, and he talks about I've heard that Alec Baldwin wasn't happy with it, and he thinks it's because his character wasn't interesting enough, but Tim Burton thinks that, well, you have to have those boring characters to contrast the really craziness of the movie.
Yeah.
That you have to have those, but he was expecting.
And I would agree with that.
He was expecting something a little bit Beetlejuicier.
It sounds like it's Yes.
Sorry,
yes.
dad joke.
Well done.
No, bring him on.
Yeah, he was probably totally jealous of Keaton when Keaton came on set and people were like, juice.
Yeah.
He was expecting Alec.
Yeah.
Alec. That never happens, though. Not for him.
No.
But he got more screen time than Michael Keaton.
Yeah, Beetlejuice was in there for like 15 minutes, 17 minutes.
17 minutes, yeah.
You know, my favorite Alec Baldwin scene in this is like when he's just like a skeleton, and he tries to say Beetlejuice, and he's like, "Bleh," his jaw falls off.
Oh yeah.
Best Alec Baldwin in this movie. That's probably not even him. That's probably just a puppet.
Yeah. It's a special effects shot.
Yeah.
That's why he hates it. It's like, it wasn't even me.
But Michael Keaton, he kills it.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
So, and then after you find out, everybody's dead and they're doing their thing, and so enters the Dietz family.
Yeah.
And they're just, big D-bags, and
they are all killing their roles, by the way, too.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Jones.
Yeah, Jeffrey Jones.
I really love like when he like goes and like tries to like convince himself that everything's good, like
well, he's like, oh, good sturdy wood. And he goes, look at that kitchen. You'll finally be able to cook a decent meal.
Yeah.
It's like, and I kind of feel like, right when they get in and like, they do this like crazy little sexual, like, it's like, you clearly tell that, A, she doesn't cook like his past wife, and B, she probably really only around because she does well in the, the bedroom area.
Well, yeah. And I mean,
or something because,
he's really wealthy, and he's a wealthy developer, which they would have gone into more in the sequel, Beetlejuice Goes to Hawaii, that didn't wasn't made. So I think she's in it for the money.
And you could tell that.
And yeah.
And I did hear they're officially picking that up, by the way.
I don't think it's going to be in
That's
Hawaii.
what I've heard.
No, I know.
We've heard that for a while, though.
Well, I guess they're in rewrites with Warner Brothers, from what I heard. And I guess, I don't know if this is too true, but Burton and both Keaton are on board.
I didn't really like. I mean, I didn't really like the Dietz family up until their sweet song, the sweet takeover song.
You mean the Deo?
Oh,
yeah.
The Deo.
And then it started picking up for me. It was kind of slow. It was kind of slow movements. What I was trying to say. So through like the first half an hour, it was kind of slow, and then it picked up a little bit. But as soon as that part hit with that song, because that's probably my favorite part of the whole movie, is.
What was so cool about that, though, is that they're trying to make them seem so awful, and it was that the humans were haunting the ghosts. They were coming into their house, and they were basically. So I think,
interesting.
Even though it was not, you're not supposed to like them, but it was an interesting take on that idea.
Totally.
Well, and I thought it was interesting that the special effects budget for this film was only $1 million, and with that said, you can kind of see how Tim Burton was, you would kind of go off of the development of characters and like the odd shots, and and it even said that they were trying to kind of dumb down the special effects a little bit to kind of make to make it cheesy almost in a respect. But the movie itself, I actually love the special effects. I didn't find those cheesy at all.
Me either. Because it's part of the movie. I mean, that's part of what
that's what I loved about it.
You're not going to watch Beetlejuice.
The only cheesy part is like the green screening on Saturn.
Yeah, that's right. That doesn't hold up because like the stop motion holds up in this world, but them next to it doesn't. Or there was another shot where Beetlejuice is really small and he's talking to is it Lydia?
Yeah,
and the green he's all kind of green in tone. It's
yeah,
not quite right.
You can kind of
even his head shrinking moment. Not to get too far ahead in the movie, but like when he gets his head shrunk, it was one of those things where I'm like walking around my house and like I ended up right in front of the TV. And you could just see all like the little bits of green screen around his head as it shrunk down. It was kind of like,
Josh,
whoa.
as a filmmaker, when he had to have seen those when he was looking at maybe the rough draft of the film. Do you think he noticed the green effect and just went, well?
It was a different time. I mean, they were mostly using blue screen back then, but they were using a little green screen. But they could only do so much with the technology. I mean, now on what comes with an Apple computer, we could do better with someone who but back then they were using real film. They were using the techniques.
So that might be some of the best that they could have done
at the time. I think other than just lighting it better at the time, that's the only thing they could have done. But you sometimes don't know that until after you get the dailies back, where you see how everything looks.
Gotcha.
And even on those special effects shots, you don't know until you've composited them together, so it's way too late.
We're judging them at in 2017.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So aside from Jeffrey Jones, obviously we got Catherine O'Hara with her awful sculptures, and then Winona Ryder. Winona Ryder, who I mean, it's funny watching this again as a 30-something-year-old dude,
right?
And like her scene where she's writing her suicide note, like I laughed a lot. I kept laughing. I was like, when she was like, "I am so," and then she like scribbles it out, and like, no, I am utterly alone.
As I plummet.
Yeah. Like that really cracked me up. I feel like all three of them, like Winona Ryder, Catherine O'Hara, and Jeffrey James or whatever, Jeffrey Jones, they all like went all out. They all did, and even the guy who played Otho.
Oh, who I love.
All those characters, I felt like none of those actors left anything on the table. Like they just fucking went.
Well, Jeffrey Jones. Jeffrey Jones, he goes all out on everything he does, though. So
he does.
Yeah, he's that weird guy and everything.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Do you know any famous any movies that these people were in that made them popular beforehand, or was this pretty much a set off?
I mean, come on, Jeffrey Jones is Ferris Bueller.
Well, like I said, he was that, and he was in the Duck movie too, right? Howard the Duck, wasn't he?
Howard the Duck.
Well,
maybe.
He was in one of those movies back in.
No, he wasn't Howard the Duck. Yeah, he was the guy with that was him.
Okay, I don't remember that part, but
he also had some scandals that aren't family friendly.
Right.
Well, I didn't know that, so he just ruined it for me, so thanks for that.
You don't really want to know.
No, that's what I was going to say. He wasn't really...
I'm glad I didn't say I was a fan.
Bird watching with the binoculars in the movie, but anyway. No, but and then what he said, Catherine O'Hara, she's the famous one from Home Alone.
Yeah.
But she's the famous Home Alone wasn't before this. That was after this.
Home Alone was after this.
It was after this, yeah. But most people will know
hadn't done much before.
He hadn't done Batman. He did Mr. Mom, and he did Johnny Dangerously. Don't know if any of you guys have seen that.
I love that movie.
Yeah, that was a great flick.
There's a great Weird Al video that goes along with that. This is the life.
Really?
Oh, you got to check it out.
Oh,
Speaking of Weird Al, we got to watch.
I love Weird Al. We do it. That's a great point.
But moving on just a little bit, I think one of my favorite parts of the film is when they enter the lobby scene. Like after they go through the brick door and you see all the dead people.
Right.
Mr. Smallhead and burnt, crisped up guy. And I love the fact that everyone, it's very clear how you can see how they're dead.
Yeah.
And then you're moving on through the door.
Except for the Maitlands.
Well, yeah, but that's a good little point that you just brought up, because
they look like they just like.
They came in wet that one scene, and that was like their.
And that was it.
Were they wet?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were sopping wet the first scene.
Were they?
Yeah.
Oh, because they sat next to the fire. Yeah.
Well, no, as they just came in through the door, they were wet.
They were supposed to be wet the whole movie, but it would just be a nightmare.
No,
for them.
totally.
And that was something that Tim Burton said is like he wanted that, but he knew that it was going to be a kind of a nightmare for the actors.
I think it was. I think it was a
constantly.
fantastic idea. I love the idea.
like why not just have spikes down there and not water? Just make it interesting.
Or just have it like rock, and just like smash or something.
Yeah, something,
But then it'd be grotesque and it'd be terrible.
Yeah, you would just
You
make
wouldn't
a
want
whole
that.
new death scene if that was the case.
But then I love how they go down next to the Lost Souls room, and there's always, no matter what world you're in, there's always a guy pushing a broom.
True.
It doesn't seem to matter. There's always a guy pushing the broom.
Somebody's got to sweep up all that dust.
There's even dust in purgatory or wherever.
Apparently there is.
What about those dumb football players?
Coach, where's the men's room?
I'm not your coach. He survived.
Wait, Coach, let me get something straight. What's our curfew around here?
Will you get out of here?
Yeah, the
They were
football was
awesome.
terrible.
Oh man, no, they were great. But that's when we meet Juno, which is the caseworker.
I received word that you allowed yourself to be photographed. And you let Beetlejuice out and didn't put him back. And you let Otho get hold of the handbook.
Oh yeah.
Who we have not brought up yet.
I have a crush on her. I'm gonna have to say. Like,
Was it the slit throat as the smoke's coming out of it? Was that what it was?
Not so much that part, but yeah, something about her. I don't know.
So
I thought she died. I thought she died of cigarette. I thought that was her like cigarette hole, but
No.
apparently she killed herself by.
Well, that's
who on earth would slit their throat by killing themselves by slit their throat? That's pretty gangster.
It's a loop. It's a loose end, Chris. Because you can. I started hearing about this
angry.
explanation about everybody committing suicide who's a civil servant because they're like, there's the girl who slit her wrists, obviously, and then there's the guy that's actually hanging from a noose when he's dragging around papers.
And the guy that ran himself over
and
with
then
the car.
there's the guy that jumped in front of the bus, presumably, and then Juno. I guess she must have just slit her throat.
No one slits their own throats. That's ridiculous.
I agree.
So I just looking into that.
Anyway, by the way, Josh, I'm looking at a picture of Sylvia Sidney, who is Juno as a young lady, and she's a fox.
Yeah. So
May I see?
Josh was born in the wrong time.
I told you.
Yeah.
I told you.
stop motion animation meets when stop motion animation met.
That's her profile.
Think about the story she could tell.
Speaking of stop motion, though, have you guys seen Corpse Bride?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I feel like there's a real direct connection between Corpse Bride and the underworld and Beetlejuice. Like they feel a lot alike, where they're kind of livelier even though they're dead, and there's just the color choices. It's like something about there's a weird connection.
It's been a long time since I've seen the film, but I completely agree with that now from the things that I do remember. That was a weird one as well, so it makes sense. See, that was what I mean. Stop motion, it's like you don't realize even nowadays some stop motion is still being done. I think a lot of people mistake stop motion for computer animation.
I will say it's not being done enough, though.
I agree.
That's one thing we've talked about before.
I feel like it's really. Back to my festival, we've been seeing submissions. The first year we only had a few stop motion submissions, and now this year we're getting half of them are stop motion. And I think that there might be, because of companies like Leica that did Paranorman, Kubo, and the Two Strings, and it's kind of bringing it back a little bit, where it's its own art form, and they people are respecting it and trying it out, and you can make stop motion films on your iPhone too. So I think, unlike CG, it feels like this really weird. How do I do that? Where do I start? I need this crazy equipment and education on it, and people are like, oh, I can just take my Legos or whatever clay.
And
just making
so
you can animate pretty much anything.
Yeah, so I think it's making a comeback, and I think people do respect movies like Beetlejuice still, because there's something about stop motion where it is an actual physical object that real light was hitting it, and it's really moving, where there's, even though CG is amazing, we know it's fake.
Right.
You think of a horror film where there's a CG monster, you're just like, okay, I'm out of it.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. I'm not scared anymore.
No, yeah.
Pretty much. No, that's exactly. I mean, it comes into play with tangible effect, with makeup, stop motion, or whatever, because you can feel it, you can see it, and it feels tangible. Compared to a computer animation where it takes the life out of it. It feels like, especially, Lucas did a good job with that in a lot of things. But not to badmouth him or anything.
Yeah,
but.
I feel like people in the industry are really paying attention to that. The 80s, the films of the 80s are making people are like, yeah, they had it right. What was right about it? And now, in The Force Awakens, they have as many practical effects as they can, and then they enhance them. with digital like
And I don't have any
eye
problem with that. I
blinks
like
or
that.
whatever.
which I agree with.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's
go practical first and enhance. Like,
Totally.
that makes
As
total
much
sense.
as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were watching behind the scenes of The Phantom Menace. Was one of the first ones that he did. It's like the actors even complained about not being able to feel like they're in the character, and you can clearly see that in the performance.
Yeah.
When you're acting with around 70% green screen, it's really hard to feel in the moment.
I just think there's got to be young, like artists out there who are sculptors or model makers or whatever who like, look at a computer and they're like, I don't want to like digitally sculpt. I want to sculpt with my hands and make something to scale and, make a movie out, because it's probably way more rewarding, I would think. I mean, that's just coming from me because I like to work with my hands, but
there's good stuff happening in all forms of visual effects, but it's there. I think there is a comeback for sure with practical effects and stop motion is. I don't know if it's ever going to be a huge thing in feature films again, but it still happens.
Oh yeah. No, I agree. Well, back to the movie just a little bit. One of my favorite stop motion scenes, and then we're talking about this, is the snake scene.
Of course.
I mean one of the best ones, and it's so out there. And I mean, I actually thought it was funny reading this, that the snake scene had actually been filmed before Michael Keaton was even cast in the film.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it kind of doesn't look like him.
Well, as an animatronic, it was filmed, and then they made a stop motion snake.
Exactly.
So that it would
have you seen the previous one? Because this one looks actually kind of like him.
Really? So there is a previous one that you
it looked like an alligator head.
Really?
Yeah. Additional film was shot. Oh, we got a snapshot here. So that's the
stop motion.
That's the
snake
stop
that we're looking at here that you can't see.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I thought that was hilarious that they filmed that, and then after the fact, they kind of did a little bit of something to
By the way,
create.
I mean, for Charles to just have a Band-Aid on his little forehead after that fall. Dude, he got dropped down a story on the marble floor.
And you got a Band-Aid.
We come for your nutter, Chuck.
I hadn't seen this movie in years, and I was like, does Charles die? I can't remember, because it seemed like he should have after that snake dropped his...
But what do we actually think? Okay, so let's get a little bit. I mean, because I actually do want you guys' opinion on what do you think was. I call it the in-between, but that's like the sand and the worms.
It's Saturn, dude.
It's Saturn.
There's legitimately a planet called Saturn.
Beetlejuice refers to it.
I did not pick that up.
He's like, oh, you guys have been to Saturn. Yeah, you've seen the sandworms there. Blah, 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 blah.
Look, we've been to Saturn. Hey, I've been to Saturn. Whoa, sandworms. You hate them, right?
Yeah, he says Saturn. I couldn't remember if it was Jupiter or Saturn, but yeah, he says
so.
He definitely calls it a planet.
I did not pick that up. Okay, so that's
but it's also the only thing he's scared of.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I got that part, but I did not catch the fact that it was okay. So fair enough.
But it's still, I didn't. I mean,
it's subtle. It's subtle. That was the first time I ever even like caught it. Yeah,
I never.
Like I watched it and I was like, oh, Nikes, it's Saturn.
But I thought it was interesting that when they're in, like I said, I'll call it the in between. When they're gone in the in between, and it feels like they're only there in like a minute or two, but they're gone for like hours.
Yeah,
you notice that when they come back, it's like you've been gone forever. Whoever was there on the outside.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird that time is actually a factor when you're dead.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was weird. She's like, you've been gone for hours, and I've just been putting horses in front of a mirror.
That'd be the worst if time was a factor after.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was thinking if you're dead, it's just like you're one with the universe. Apparently not, though. You got 125 years to
I don't know. What do they do? Apparently it's all hell. I guess it's all hell.
No, I think they make it seem like it's this weird kind of like you gotta spend your time on Earth depending on how you lived your life. Like for them, 125 years, they're good people. That's probably average. Beetlejuice, it's millennia. Or how
are you making this up, or
did they say something about 125 years?
They mentioned something about 125 years, but I actually did not pick up what it referenced.
When they go into the DMV-ish kind of the underworld.
Okay.
Yeah. She's like, oh, you guys only get 3 emergency calls during your 125 years on Earth before you can move on to eternity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
See, I did not pick that up.
Yeah, I missed that.
Well, I heard the 125 years, but I did not.
Yeah, so
that's
crazy.
It's
safe to assume that that's kind of the average span of time that a soul is supposed to spend on Earth before they move on. And like Beetlejuice references is like how many millennia you got, you know? Like, so he's got years on his mind. Like he's not just saying like
you do a pretty good Beetlejuice. So I mean, did you ever like how weird is it that Ortho, or I call him Ortho, but
Ortho? You mean Otho? Like from He-Man?
Yeah, no, not Ortho. What is his name? Otho.
Otho. Charles.
He never leaves.
No, Otho.
He just like stakes.
First of all, he comes to
his spot and then
window.
Yeah. Well, I just thought it was funny. It's like, he introduced himself as the interior designer, and then like
we just believe it. Yeah, we're okay.
But he never goes. He just sticks through it the whole movie. Like you feel like he's gone. My favorite part is you think he's gone, and they're out in their little balcony. They're talking. He's like, well, maybe this is a bad thing for Lydia. And then all of a sudden, he just comes through with his daiquiri and he goes, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, why are you still here?
Yeah. Presumably, they are in Connecticut. So presumably he either got a hotel room down in the town or he's just driving out there every day. It's kind of weird because it's like he's not sleeping there.
I know.
I assumed he was. I assumed he was just that he was redecorating, just staying there, and they were kind of like their elitist, like New York friends.
That's what happens when you redecorate. Your interior designer stays.
He decorated. He decorated, and then when he was done decorating, the ghost came, and he was their house paranormal guy. Remember, he was the guy that.
Yeah, he knows just as much about paranormal activity than he does interior design.
He had to be there.
Well, he got his hands on the book. He got his hands on the book.
That's why.
That's right.
The handbook.
Yeah. So that does explain some things, because I did wanted to pose a question. It's like, why could Lydia see it? But I did forget that she read some of the books, so that obviously opens the doorway for people on the living plane to be able to see the dead.
But before she even saw the book, she saw the window open.
Yeah, that's what I was confused by.
Yeah, I think they don't really get it. Apparently, in like the original story, there was a little girl who was the clairvoyant or whatever.
There's very little backstory.
This is the cool part about rehashing this in 2017 when nobody pays attention to that kind of stuff.
No.
Well, this is one of those weird movies where you have too many cooks in the kitchen, but it worked out. Like luckily, there were so many script rewrites and then producers input, studio input, and actors, how they portray the characters, and it all came out okay. But I think that some of that stuff gets lost in between those rewrites, where there probably was a reason for a lot of this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, Josh, for reference, how old are you?
I'm 35.
Okay, so you're right. How old are you guys? 35 too?
37.
No, 38.
Damn,
we're all old. Yeah, you're young.
It's crazy.
You're a young guy.
I'm trying. Every movie we watch, I try to think: is this? If I had never heard of Beetlejuice before, if there was no talk about it, I never heard of it, and I put it in, would I enjoy it? And I try to think. I think I would. But I constantly think to myself, because I had seen it. Obviously, we've seen Beetlejuice a bunch of times, but it's been a long time. And I saw a bunch of things that I don't remember seeing before.
Right.
Even like when the face comes down, or where he Alec Baldwin pulls his face out, it kind of looks like the guy from Mad TV a little bit, like the spy.
I actually love that scene. I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, it's a great scene. But I didn't remember that in the previous times I've watched it. So.
Yeah, there was. I agree. There was a few things that I do not remember. Namely, kind of the Michael Keaton. I feel like if they made a remake of this, it would be a mistake to recast Michael Keaton, because I think he's too healthy.
Well, he wants to do it so bad. He's ready to do it again.
Let's get somebody who doesn't need much makeup, like a Gary Busey, or
you're still riding that bandwagon,
or a Nick Nolte.
I think Alan Alda is a great cast choice.
Now, Chris. let's not get carried away here.
Your Alan Alda sounds exactly like what's his name from Last Man on Earth, Saturday Night Live.
Tim Matt
Will Forte.
Will Forte. It sounds exactly like Will Forte.
Well, I take that as a compliment.
Doesn't it?
It does kind of.
Now that he said it, actually, I can see.
Now I'm just trying to sound like Will Forte. But
no,
except for now, all the fans know we don't actually talk to Alan Alda, which is kind of sad. But spoilers.
You should just change it to Will Forte.
I didn't even. It wasn't even my idea to do an Alan Alda impression. I was doing impressions, and Chris is like, "You sound like Alan Alda."
He was trying to do a Family Guy impression.
Yeah, I was trying to do Peter Griffin.
But it just sounded like on all this. So like,
yeah, I don't know. To me, it sounds exactly like Will Forte. like if I close my eyes, you're Will Forte right now.
okay, so maybe Alan Alda's not a great Beetlejuice, but there were a couple interesting cast choices for the characters though. I watched a little video on it. I can't remember who they were now, but there was a couple that were like, I don't know if that would have worked out.
Well, actually, one that I do remember as Arnold Schwarzenegger was
Really?
considered for the role
Get
of Beetlejuice. Yes,
That'd be interesting.
there's your idea.
No,
I just
Arnold Schwarzenegger was considered for the role.
Saturn. You see sandworms.
See?
Okay, Arnold, we just, in this scene, need you to make a noise as if your head is spinning around really fast, okay?
What kind of a noise, like I'm shooting a gun or something?
No, just make a noise, like you're yelling, like your head is spinning around.
Oh, you mean like a get down type of noise, something like that?
No, I mean, like, just, yell or something. Just yell, okay?
Okay, if you say so. Here goes nothing.
kind of like Goonies. I feel like I'm forced to like movies sometimes because everyone likes them. And I'm watching Beetlejuice. I was thinking, like, I loved it because I always have. But I was thinking some of it's like, man, I wonder if like this isn't kind of slow.
I mean,
maybe
to be honest with this film, I actually did find it very difficult to get through about the first 20 to 30 minutes.
I did too.
Because you're setting up the whole storyline, and I just felt like some of it was quite cheesy, quite difficult. The dialogue wasn't that great. And, after a while, you kind of start losing yourself. But like I said, as soon as they got Harry Potter-ish, they opened the doorway and they went in. You got to see the world, and then boom, I was in.
Yeah, and then you got the practical effects and the amazing makeup.
They suck you in with all that kind of stuff.
V. Neil did a great job. Obviously, they won an Oscar for it.
I just feel like the Maitlands are idiots. I mean, like from start to be like.
I don't mind Gina Davis's character. Alec Baldwin, I didn't like his character.
Why he didn't like it?
But a lot of time, smarter than him.
He's the one that turned the wheel and drove him off the bridge. I mean, the dog probably, if they would have stopped, hit the brakes. It's like, instead of hit the brakes, let's just drive off the bridge.
I guess if the movie didn't start with him falling in a 3 foot bed of water and dying from it, maybe I wouldn't have.
Well, maybe that's why he died. Those 3 feet, you just boom hit your head, and it doesn't matter how much water's in there.
Okay,
maybe
there you go.
Maybe.
He fixed it for me.
And they're probably lap belts. They don't have shoulder straps, so you just.
Either way, though, their impatience with like the fact that they know they're ghosts and they got this handbook and they're just like, like this book is just
And he reads like 2 pages and then I need help. We need help. And then it's like, no, read more of the book, you joker.
I at some point I'm like, come on, you guys, you're dead.
Josh, what was your favorite animation scene in this movie?
Probably. Oh, that's hard. I mean, the sandworms or whatever you want to call those. Those are really good. But I kind of like the when they were trying to be scary and they were like changing their faces.
Right.
Yeah.
And, he's like pulling. I think it was Alec Baldwin was pulling his eyes, or he took his eyes out and then was pulling his like in his eye sockets.
Yeah, he stretched his nose. Yeah.
Yeah, and they used replacement animation for that in stop motion. So they basically had a bunch of different masks of the different levels of it going out, and then they would just like take a picture, replace it, put another one in, take a picture.
Wow.
And it's not going to help for anyone that's listening, but I have a photo of it right
here.
We'll
post them.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy for sure. It makes you want to go back and watch it again and see it in motion.
Yeah, no kidding.
What a trip.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah. I like those, and they're all pretty good. So it's hard. It's kind of a sad question because they're all pretty fantastic. But that's probably one of my favorite as well. Even when Gina first tries to scare them, and she's hanging in the closet and she pulls her face off.
Yeah,
like that.
I thought that was great, and I love. I mean, that entire scene where it's like she pulls her face off, and they're like, but they're like just pretentiously looking at the small closet.
Yeah.
They're like,
why couldn't they see her?
Because they don't like.
Oh, they can't see her. That's why they put sheets on. Yeah. I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but it's just a hilarious way of directing the movie. Like to have that like an obnoxious, pretentious family moving in, and they can't scare them because the family is just too narcissistic.
Yeah, no, it's all about
just
along those lines. I think this might be my favorite now that I think about it, is when we see the back of Beetlejuice's head and he's scaring them, and we see these like snake things coming out.
Oh, I know you're asking me. Can I be scary? What do you think of this? like it.
And then just cuts back to his normal face, like, and it's such a simple thing. And if they had shown it, it wouldn't have been as good.
No, totally.
And that's a total. You're trying to be efficient with your money or whatever, but it works for comedy, like perfectly.
It's weird how sometimes those things work like that.
Yeah.
Because I would like to see it. I would like to have seen his face, but you're right. It would not have been.
It
as
wouldn't
good.
have been as good.
Yeah, that was
Just the
supposed to be.
tentacles
That was actually a scene that was supposed to be done, but
Were
it
they
was
planning on it?
too elaborate and too crazy that they just decided to go with that prosthetic on the frontal so you can see from behind because it was just too much.
I appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, it was that would have been a great scene, obviously, because you can't help it when you see it from behind. You're like, oh, come on, you're killing me. I want to see.
Looks like he has like fly legs. Flying out.
Yeah,
of his head
it
face.
does. It looks like it looks like a beetle.
But what makes it hilarious is that if the speed of the edit, that it immediately cuts back to the same expression he had like a second before.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it so funny. It's just like they show his face, and it's almost like they use the same footage, and then they go to that shot of and then they come back to it, and it's the same face, like nothing happened. Like it's like it is as significant as him sticking his tongue out for a second and putting it back in his mouth. That's like what it felt like.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
How old would your son have to be to watch this movie?
Oh Jesus.
This is PG.
It's PG. Remember,
This is weird. I mean, like you said, first PG movie that I can know of that has this
That
kind
uses
of
Wyatt's favorite
swear
word.
words, and I don't know, man. I'd have to say probably
it was dirty. He was dirty and sexual. It was sexual.
Okay, so
and
this kind of
cuss
stuff.
words.
This kind of stuff I brought up in this podcast before because I started watching these films where I probably was too young myself. Like I started watching horror
was a
films
different
and
time
stuff
then,
like that
though.
at about 8 years old.
Different times.
I want to say like 8.
I think I was about that age, and I didn't understand any of the
Right.
sexual references
So I mean,
at all.
probably 8 years old.
I would say,
I'd say-
I would say, I remember seeing this. I agree, like, right, because it came out in '88. Like, I saw it when I was under 10.
Yeah.
'Cause I saw it when it came out-ish.
Right. So I that's what I would say. Probably.
But I
probably
agree.
8.
Like, I didn't see so much of the sexuality and the stuff was way over my head at that point.
Oh, yeah.
It was more about how ridiculous Beetlejuice was, and
That's true. Yeah, no. Like I said, because I don't have that perspective of this movie. I didn't
like
watch it as a kid.
we can't.
I was
put,
3
like,
when this movie came
We can't
out.
put any.
you know?
We can't
Right,
insinuate
okay.
other than just having girls moaning and whistling. And
What's amazing is that it spawned a pretty good cartoon that was.
Oh, yeah.
for
I was
kids.
going to bring that up tonight as well. It was it ran for like 3 years from 89 to 91.
I watched an episode last night.
Yeah, it was not bad.
I forgot a lot about it. I forgot about the big hairy cowboy thingy.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
the dog, and then I forgot about the French skeleton.
But then Lydia is friends with Beetlejuice in that.
Yeah, and then the Maitlands are gone.
Yeah, they're nowhere to be seen.
They're hardly in the Beetlejuice cartoon. I mean, I actually saw it. It's like they did 94 episodes, and the family is only in like half the episodes.
The
Like, they're
Maitlands
only-
or the family?
Everybody. Well, there's
Because I don't even
it's
think the
primarily Beetlejuice and Lydia.
I know that they have the parents. I just don't think that they even like touch on like.
There's a
the Maitlands.
few random characters, and even those are only credited for like 34 episodes. So they're not. I mean, they did 94 episodes, so you got to say it's like the most other ones are credited for 34 episodes.
That's the most we've ever talked about TV right there.
Yeah, that's
I don't
true.
think a TV podcast.
But it was a pretty decent cartoon. I mean, the gags were pretty good from what I remember. I mean, I watched an episode myself the other night too, just because, and I thought the animation was pretty decent. The guy who did Beetlejuice was pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, you're right. I mean, Lydia, they were actually friends in this. Yeah, it was a weird cartoon, but it was actually one of the first cartoons that were featured on 2 networks at the same time, which was made TV history. Actually, they were on Saturday mornings on Fox.
Oh yeah,
and they also did. They were on ABC. Actually, no, they ran 5 days a week on Fox and then on ABC mornings. So it kind of made television history with that.
I might be wrong, but it could have been that I even watched the cartoon first and then watched the movie. I mean, it's possible.
Well, they both came out like this. Well, okay, this was 88. And the cartoon came out in 89. So, yeah, I mean, why wouldn't it, you know?
Yeah, because I didn't see
Sure.
Beetlejuice in the theater. I saw it on
Definitely
VHS
not,
at
yeah.
some point.
Yeah.
So maybe I watched it
You're
because
like,
of the cartoon.
Wait, what? There's a movie?
You're like, let's see this thing. Yeah.
So just getting back to Beetlejuice the movie. If you've never seen Beetlejuice,
This is what we do.
the funk rant. If you've never seen Beetlejuice, you know that if you say his name 3 times, he's gonna come out, right?
Right.
So they said his name 3 times, and they still had to bring him out of the little city because I didn't understand. I didn't understand how they put him back and how he came.
Well, because they said his name 3 times, and then she said home, 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 and then she figured out that she can like make him go away by saying Beetlejuice 3 times after she says 3.
How did she know that?
I think she's just guessing.
Yeah,
that's my guess.
Right. But I think that was like a restriction that I don't know, the underworld put on him or whatever, because Juno, who apparently he was her assistant.
Yeah.
In the backstory or whatever. So he was her assistant.
If there's backstory. You keep saying this elusive backstory.
Yeah. Well, you got to read.
No one reads.
It's called. There's a prequel called Beetlejuice: How the Juice is Made.
There should be. That would be a really popular documentary, actually.
It might be,
because I heard there was a lot of deleted scenes for this movie.
There is.
They didn't.
Yeah, but that was. I mean, one of them actually. It was like it alluded to the fact that Beetlejuice actually hung himself, and that was how he actually died. So he became a civil servant for the dead. And worked with Juno,
but didn't have a noose around his neck or anything.
No, yeah, but that never was used in the film.
Beetlejuice
but that
is the one guy. He's the one guy in this entire movie that's dead that didn't show how he died.
Yeah, but he had decay, so I don't know.
Same with the Maitlands.
Yeah,
I thought he had decay because he's been there for so long.
That was probably true.
I thought he had decay because at some point he mentions the plague. I was like, oh, he was a plague, because
right.
he looks like he had the plague.
I'm a graduate of the Harvard Business School. I travel quite extensively. I lived through the Black Plague, and I had a pretty good time during that. I've seen The Exorcist about 167 times, and it keeps getting funnier every single time I see it.
Yeah.
But
originally, he was a civil servant, and that's so. And I think that was something because she said he was a menace, and I think that's kind of like something maybe they did to where he was kind of like restricted, and the only way he could come back if somebody said his name 3 times. But that's just how I kind of like came about it.
I also feel like this movie we don't need logic for this movie.
There's no need for logic.
Sometimes we get kind of a logic train going.
Yeah, come on, we're trying to crack this nut.
Let's dig as deep as we can into Beetlejuice.
I feel like the logic for like really tiny things makes sense in this, but for the big picture stuff, like the mystery's kind of nice.
Yeah,
for the underworld.
I agree, especially with like how. I mean, the tension with the family is just like dysfunctional until they have this episode with Beetlejuice, and then after that they're like, la-di-da, like she's suddenly a really good sculptor with like her Beetlejuice sculpture, like she can't sculpt a potato for the life of her, but then she like shows up with this brilliant like sculpture of Beetlejuice's head.
Oh yeah,
and shoves it in his face, and she's like, he likes it, and I'm like, wow. I mean, what happened? I mean, she got great.
Yeah, suddenly, because nobody else liked her sculptures, which I actually enjoyed as a good stop animation moment when her sculptures came alive for the wedding scene. Which is a great point because Beetlejuice actually kind of honed in on her because of her. She actually wanted to die.
Did it ever say how old she was in this movie?
No.
Is Beetlejuice just a creeper too?
Oh, Beetlejuice is a creeper.
Lydia. Well, Winona Ryder herself was 17 when they filmed this.
Oh, she probably
so
got
Michael Keaton was. He was like, whether it was acting or not, he was hitting on a 17.
Yeah. But like what Josh just said is kind of like who really cares? Beetlejuice is Beetlejuice, and you don't really have to look. Sure. He was creeper from the get go, so you just kind of look past the fact that she was 17.
Well, yeah, I mean he was indiscriminate, no doubt.
Oh yeah, but that I did enjoy that part, and the crazy stop animation for that was pretty awesome. And what I loved was I'm actually going to miss his name. I think his name is Tony Scott.
Tony Scott. Who did he play?
Oh no, I'm gonna. Tony Cox. I'm sorry. The little person, little black guy.
Did he play the guy marrying?
He played He played the preacher.
Yeah,
that came through. He was in the actual, and he was the black guy in Me, Myself, and Irene.
Oh, that guy. Yeah. Oh, he's in all.
And also we did a podcast a little while ago with Willow, and he.
Yeah, I think he was. It's not the first time we talked about. Tony Cox.
not at all. And he he played the preacher, just not the voice of course, but he comes through and just I had to throw that guy out there real quick, but I love.
That's weird. I don't remember that scene with him then because
no, you wouldn't because he is the preacher.
Yeah, it's like when the fireplace gets all wicked and opens up and that little alien comes out. That's Tony Cox.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was my opening because I love the morphing of the door.
There's a video on YouTube. The guys that did all the stop motion on Beetlejuice, they posted their behind the scenes videos from the 80s.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And there's one of the door, and also it's replacement animation where basically had all these different steps of the door, and they show him. It's just like this little tiny. It's like this big. Like well, no one can see that, but it's
you can't help yourself.
But you just pop this door piece in, take it off. After you take a picture, you put the next one up, and it slowly stretches as they take the.
Because I was actually going to ask you. I mean, I had a couple of stop animation questions for you, and that was going to be one of them. That's why I leaded into that, asking how you would have probably done that, but you actually told me how they did that.
Yeah.
The other one was going to be, as a filmmaker, how do you think they? Well, obviously probably green screen, but the morphing of the heads.
Well, we kind of went over that earlier with. Are you talking about when they were doing their?
No. When Beetlejuice.
Oh
yeah,
or when
he takes the number from King Katuko, I don't know his name, and he sprinkles the dust.
Oh, and his head shrinks. That was probably where they had. I mean, I'm guessing if I were to do it, I would have basically a dummy body with on the set or back then, probably a dummy body. Maybe it was real hands, and then you separately would film his head in green screen, and then you composite it together so that you are shrinking the green screen head, and
right.
It's I don't know if that.
Well, that makes more sense because actually I think that kind of qualifies to what we were talking about too. When there was some moments of that film, especially that part. Now that I think about it. That it felt a little green.
Oh yeah, I was saying, I was standing
so
close to my TV, I could see the the outline of it, and I'd never noticed that. I mean, I wouldn't notice if I was watching it on the couch at all. But
yeah, exactly.
It was something I noticed, but it was in 1988.
I think one of my least favorite scenes like that was when they were doing when the seance was happening and they were bringing them back into the bride and groom outfits.
Right.
And they were getting old, and she was aging faster than he was. And just the way they did the face falling apart, it was kind of, it didn't have the same feel as the rest of the movie did to me. So it was kind of weird.
Totally.
That part was kind of a strange part for me, but.
Right.
Like I said earlier, I love it when Alec Baldwin tries to say Beetlejuice, and he's like, bleh. His jaw falls off.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I don't know if we're jumping too far. Well, we might, but I didn't understand the arrangement at the end of the movie of how they all live together.
That's actually, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to bring that up in a little bit. Well, in the beginning, I think during the film, they did decide that they wanted to invite them to live with them instead of trying to scare them away.
I don't see the Deets.
The Deets,
I don't know that. I don't see them as characters doing that unless they had no choice.
I think this after because he's after money, we know that, and I think after the end of the whole thing, all the other guys that he was trying to pan money off of, they clearly thought he was a putz. And I think at the end of it, it was just we either make do with this or move. And, they knew that the ghosts weren't bad people. So I don't know. It's the
only thing I could think of is that they just are lousy parents and they're like, wait, these ghosts can be her parents?
I agree.
Yes. That's
she
true.
Comes
the math
home.
Test.
She comes home and the Maitlands are sitting there waiting to hear about her grades. And then she gets to do her little, her little possession thing. And the parents are upstairs. She's sculpting Beetlejuice heads. He's reading about something, and then they're like, oh, sounds like she passed the test. They're the parents.
In that respect, at least they knew that she had a math test.
Yeah.
For all, it's just what's that about? But it could have been that.
I got this feeling that the Deets, the parents were banished to the upstairs, and the Maitlands are raising Lydia downstairs.
The only room they could live in is a study because that's the only one he liked. I don't know. But no, I mean, that's something I actually wanted to bring up too.
And it was a little misleading too, like you were saying, because they make it seem almost like the Deets left and that they're occupying the downstairs and living like they would have at the beginning.
They
and
greet
she comes
her at
home.
the door,
But then they suddenly were also there in the house. It just seemed weird. It didn't seem. It almost seems like they did that after test screenings. They're like, oh, we need a happier ending.
Well, yeah, that's what they did, because actually one of the endings that they wanted to use was Beetlejuice actually fighting off all the sand monsters in the end of the film. Because at the end, because after the wedding scene, in rides the mom, or I can't remember her name now. She comes through the ceiling with the sand monster or whatever, and it takes down Beetlejuice
and gently jumps off.
Yeah,
just a feather on a pillow.
Yeah, and so that was when we went opening scene. But then in test screening, they decided to go with Beetlejuice back in the waiting room. Yeah, and that's when the sprinkle dust happened.
Yeah, I think my girlfriend watched it with me, thankfully, because I didn't realize. I was like, how in the hell is she riding that worm? Doesn't make sense. I was like, well, and she's like, she punched it. I was like, oh, I guess you're right. Apparently you punched Sandler. Like my girlfriend totally understood that, but it was lost on me.
Yeah, I was like, they kind of rushed that.
Yeah, I was like,
I don't know what happened.
It was totally believable to my girlfriend. She punched it.
I have a feeling a lot of this movie was actually reshot, maybe in some points after test screening. I mean, because you know how studios get involved so much with films anymore, and we've seen so many bad,
adding the literal word "juice" at the end of this.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows anymore? So I mean, it was probably a lot of things that were changed, maybe. But either way, we all know this movie was interesting to say the least.
It's a better version of Creepshow. That's what I would say.
I don't know about that.
This isn't as quick as Creepshow though.
That's true.
Yeah,
this movie had its valleys. It had its valleys and its hills.
No peaks. There's no peaks in this movie.
There were some peaks.
There's just valleys and hills.
But they were so quick.
It's a terrible movie.
Okay.
Well, what do you? I mean, obviously, we do. It's pointless to even critique or give ratings to movies, but you guys all give it a.
If I was talking to somebody who was born after 1995 and they had no clue what this was, I'd be like, watch it, because if you saw Michael Keaton in The Birdman, you would be flabbergasted to see him in this movie.
I would say this is, no matter who you are, this is just a great Halloween movie, like around this time of year where you like, hey, if you want a fun movie to watch around Halloween, watch Beetlejuice. And then even if you don't think it's amazing nowadays, like, you can still have a lot of fun with it. It's hard to separate nostalgia from what we're really seeing.
It's true. That's absolutely.
I still love this movie. Like I said, I did have a little bit of difficulty getting through about the first 25-30 minutes of it, but I still totally enjoyed the film, and I would definitely recommend it. I mean, if we're going to give it a rating, I'd probably get it a 7.5, 8
out of 10.
Yeah.
Well, what would you give Creepshow? I never asked you.
I grew up with that movie more than I did with Beetlejuice, and I would definitely give that about an 8, 8.5, because I love that film.
I give it that like an unbiased 6.5.
It's right there in line with Ice Pirates to me.
Not a fan.
It's got the same grade as Ice Pirates.
Yeah, I mean, not to talk about podcasts from yesteryear.
Days past, yeah.
But yeah, Creepshow, not an 8 to me.
Well, that's what I said. I grew up with that one. So, like I said, what Josh said about nostalgia. I mean, nostalgia definitely hikes
without
it up
a doubt.
So,
I just want to reiterate, I'm super excited about this animation festival coming up.
Absolutely.
And I really do appreciate you coming up and hanging out with us and bringing your sweet puppets. We'll take some pictures and get those so everyone can see them.
Absolutely.
It's pretty cool to be in the same room with someone that does something that I wish when I was younger. I wish I would have kept on going on. Something I actually might try now.
Yeah,
watching your videos online and seeing what you do. I mean, obviously not in the production style you do, because you actually put a lot of that work in, but it's something that I can do by myself, and I'm really excited to see it. So thank you for coming up and showing us.
I can't wait to see your version of Gumby.
Yeah. I'm gonna make a horrible version of Toy Box is what I think.
Yeah.
That was good. Hey, well, before we go, last question on what you do. There's a scene in Toy Box where I don't know how you do it. It's either green screen or something, but he's going through his toy box, and then it shows through the toy box. It shows what he's playing with, and it's whatever. It's a puppet or something moving around. How did you show that? Is it just a green screen through that? Or?
Oh yeah, I use a lot of green screen mixed with stop motion animation, but I think I know the shot you're talking about. Is it where a door opens up?
Yeah, where he's playing with the toys, and then in the background it's actually the toys playing.
So I animated the door opening in the box with stop motion, and separately I animated this other scene of these toys moving around, and then I composited them in the computer by basically cutting out. It's like cutting a hole where that door opened.
Okay.
Digitally, and it reveals the other scene that I animated. So all of that is animated, but using computers to put them together.
I love that part. It's just a cool eye trip to watch. Because you're seeing animation and you're seeing real life, and then you're seeing animation in the real life. It's a really cool contrast to each other. So when I watched it, I was thinking, I got to ask him how he did that, because it's pretty cool.
I have a photo I can show you.
That's cool. All right, well, cool.
Well, anyway, thank you very much, Josh, for being with us. So we're going to close out this episode. But actually, before we go, if you guys have listened to this far, do us a favor and please go to Facebook and give us a like. And also, if you have the time, which would be super great, is go ahead and subscribe, rate, and write us a small review. So once again, this is Cinema Stash Rehash. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to Cinema Stash Rehash. Be sure to give us some awesome iTunes reviews, like us on Facebook. Don't forget to check out past episodes and join us next time on Cinema Stash Rehash.